Between Life and Death by Jaclyn. Chapter 50. By the time I got past the lake, the fire had grown in intensity and size, spreading itself out, a blanket of flame thrown over the trees. The roar of it was loud, but the crackling, explosive sound the oak trees made as they fell was deafening. The way they combusted when they hit the ground, it sounded like they had been struck by lightning, and when those ancient oaks fell, the earth trembled beneath my feet. Ezra! I screamed her name over and over again. I was desperate to find her. Another tree fell, landing just to the left of me, nearly bringing me down with it. Scrambling, I darted forward towards the cottage, out of the reach of the flames, chewing on the vacant branches of a red dogwood bush. A widowmaker pine hung on another tree. Then it came thundering down. I leapt backwards, narrowly missing it as it fell. It blocked my path. My hand shot forward, a blast of water emitting from my palm. The flames that ravaged that tree hissed in agony as I put them out. Steam and smoke weighed the air down, thick and heavy, riddling my lungs. I coughed and covered my mouth with the crook of my arm, my eyes burning as I peered over top. I pressed on, but I wasn't so sure I knew where I was going anymore. The markings I had etched into the trees when I was a child to guide me back to the cottage were gone, and although I had outgrown them years ago, I no longer recognized the forest anymore. When I was certain I was lost, that the inferno had swallowed me whole, and I was now stuck inside this never-ending maze made of flame, when hope was about to give out, that was when I saw it, the cottage, and by the grace of the gods, it was completely untouched. I raced towards it, lungs working on borrowed time. My sleeve caught on a tree, pulling me back. I turned, eyes going wide. It was not a tree. The raven was large, its feathers oddly light, just like the sickly one I saw the night we buried my brother. It looked healthy now, its massive wings flapping as it stayed suspended in the air, its beak tugging on my sleeve like it was trying to pull me back, away from the cottage. I fought with it, surprised by its strength. A scream, Ezra's scream, slammed into me. Adrenaline coursed through my veins. I gave a final tug, and my sleeve sprung free. Twirling, my feet nearly tangled up in one another. I moved as fast as my legs would carry me. The bird tailed me, dipping in front of me, trying to cut me off. I threw a water ball at it, aiming just below it. Not enough to hit it, but enough to scare it off. It worked, granting me enough time to get ahead. Heart pounding, lungs hissing. I slipped my hand around the doorknob, not bothering to care if it scalded my fingers to the bone. But it wasn't hot. It was cool to the touch, an anomaly I had no time to think about. I swung the door open, my eyes darting around, falling, stumbling, when I saw Ezra standing there, a blade held to her throat. My heart missed its beat. Soren? I asked the boy I once thought of as a brother, the boy who now stood behind Ezra, his hand holding the dagger. Ezra's eyes were even more vacant than usual. She stood there, her face impossibly blank, like she was a lifeless husk, her spirit gone. Something was very, very wrong. I am so sorry, Sage, Soren replied, his eyes wide, filled with horror. His hand shook, making me even more nervous. I raised my hand slowly, gesturing defensively, as if I were no threat. It's okay, Soren, just please put the knife down and we can talk. They didn't give me a choice, Soren said, his voice raised, tears gathering in the corners of his eyes. Who didn't give you a choice? I asked, trying to make him feel like he was being heard, all the while stumbling to form a plan. The king's men, Soren screamed, his hand shaking. The blade bit into Ezra's throat, drawing a droplet of blood to the surface. Her expression never changed, worrying me even more. Please, Sor, please, don't hurt her, I pleaded, my legs wobbling beneath me, and I was suddenly uncertain if they could bear my weight. I needed to keep him busy, to buy more time. Tell me what happened. My voice was steeped in false warmth. I awoke in a cold, damp cell, the back of my head aching, an arrow embedded in my chest. I learned from the prisoner next to me that I was in Clearwell Castle. They didn't give me much for food or water, made me sit in my own filth, like I was a lowly, dying animal. I suppose to them, that's what I was. Then the guards came in and dragged me out. They took me to a room, buried in the back of the dungeon, to a place that echoed with screams, the kind you never forget. There are they, he stuttered. He held up his left hand, revealing the gruesome, leftover nubs, cauterized on the ends. Only 2 fingers were left. They cut them off, Sage. They said they had 2 questions they needed answered. 2 questions and the pain would stop. They wanted to know who the cursed girl was who freed the conscripted soldiers, and where to find her. Soren paused briefly. At first, I didn't tell them. Not for the first 2 fingers, but when they got to the middle one, when that blade bit in, Soren turned ashen, the blood chased out of his skin. I wondered if he might pass out, prayed he would. But a strange, disbelieving giggle slipped out of him instead. I told them everything they wanted to know. I didn't have a choice. If I didn't agree, I would have died, whether that was directly because of them or the infected arrow wound in my chest. He shook his head, his voice a whisper, twined with a shaky breath. I don't want to end up like my parents. It's okay. I understand, I lied, my tone honey-sweet. I didn't understand. I would have let them take every digit before I gave up my family and friends. You weren't there. You don't know what it was like, Soren seethed, defending himself. I stiffened, remembering he had access to my thoughts. We have time, I started, treading carefully. The forest is on fire. They will have trouble navigating it right now. We can escape. You, me, and Ezra will go to the cursed lands. Together. There is still time, I exclaimed, taking a daring step forward, testing his limits, as well as mine. No, there is no time. Soren performed a somber shake of his head. He didn't connect his gaze with mine, instead just staring, his eyes downcast to the floor. They are waiting for you outside. No one is outside, I countered. The forest is on fire. There is no fire. What? When we showed up and you weren't here, I knew you must be close. I needed a way to draw you out. So I planted the image in your mind that the forest was on fire. I knew you would come looking for Ezra, but I saw the flames, I sputtered, unable to form words. The heat of it, the smoke, all of it, it was real, wasn't it? Turn around, Soren instructed, his voice sounding so incredibly unfamiliar. It was harder, older, and so unlike the boy I once knew. Please, I pleaded, my mind frantic. I couldn't do this again. The three of us had just been reunited, and now, turn around, he screamed, angling the knife, threatening to make it bite. Okay, I will. Just please don't hurt her. My eyes lingered, tracing Ezra's face, memorizing the laugh lines and all they represented, inhaling it all, as if it were my dying breath, before I complied, and turned around. Walk out the door. I did, my steps slow, uncertain. When I opened the door, when I stepped outside, it was hard to trust my eyes. The oak trees stood, slumbering peacefully, untouched and whole. The sky was an azure blue, dotted with white, cottony clouds. They drifted leisurely, as if they had all the time in the world. The birds tweeted their songs as if it were just another day. There were no flames, no fire. What I was seeing warred with the blazing inferno replaying in my mind, the destruction, the chaos I had just witnessed. The two separate realities flickered back and forth, fighting, real or not real. One was a lie, and the other was truth. And yet, I could not select which was which. My head started to throb as the battle continued. But what started as a dull ache quickly amplified. It built an ice pick striking my mind, chipping and hammering the pieces away, one by one. I gripped my head, slumping to my knees. A shrill scream tore through my mind, loud enough to chase the tiniest shadow mouse out of its hole. My eyes flared wide, realization dawning. Enough! I screamed at Soren, who stood behind me. That was all it took to restore clarity, to end the internal war. As Soren relinquished his control, the shadow mouse returning to its hole. Why? I panted, chest heaving. My hands fisted the dead grass, the strands anchoring me in place, keeping me from doing anything foolish, like turning around and blasting Soren, which would ultimately risk Ezra's life, something I was not willing to do. After everything that happened with Fallon and Riker, the elders forbid breaking the unconscious mind barrier, which meant I was never able to explore this part of my curse, to test its limits, as I did with you just now. I was curious how deep my curse went. Now I know, Soren stated, his voice as blank as I presumed his face to be right now. What happened to you? I gritted. It wasn't a question, but rather a statement. The Soren speaking now was not the one I once knew. I told you, I refused to end up like my parents. He paused. No one wants to admit it, but we have been stuck on the losing side for years. With each battle, our numbers dwindle. The cursed will never defeat the crown. And now I know it is easier to submit than to fight. Just because it is easier does not make it right, I stated, my words sinking in. I was giving in right now. Just as I had for so many years, I had been complacent, hiding my curse, because of fear. Fear of what might happen to me if my secret was found out. Even now, I was still being complacent, because I feared what might happen to Ezra if I did not obey Soren's demands. I was sick of fear, sick of the power it held over me. And yet, as much as I wanted to fracture its hold, as much I wanted to break free, I could not risk Ezra's life. The steady rumble of armor-clad footsteps was birthed from the trees. Soldiers emerged, fully armored, from metal helmet to polished boot. Some carried their swords, more than ready to strike, while others carried crimson banners decorated with the crown's royal emblem, staining my forest in the color of blood, in the colors of the king. "Don't fight him," Soren said, his words tainted with magic. I heard the steps come from behind, the screech of improperly fitted armor. I tried to move, tried to do something, but my arms and legs were anchored to the ground, my body feeling as though it did not belong to me. The weight of something cold and hard snapped around my neck, dozens of little spikes drilling themselves in. My eyes widened as I winced in pain. The iron collar. My curse dried up, evaporated, blood trickled down my throat, staining my flesh in a river of crimson. "I am sorry for this, Sage," said a familiar voice that came from behind me. "Arkan?" I gritted through the pain swelling in my neck. My question was answered with a sudden whoosh of air, before something collided with the back of my head. A sickening whack, a splintering of pain, and I was rendered unconscious.